Welcome back to another edition of Average Joe News Co. Today is Friday, July 31st. This is episode 16, and we'll be covering two stories today, the first of which is the FCC approving giant space mirrors to deliver sunlight on demand, as well as rotten fish sauce that has stunk up a small Canadian town for the last 20 years that is finally being cleaned and removed. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's go.
Our first story today, the FCC has approved a California startup company called Reflect Orbital to launch Arendelle 1, a prototype satellite that uses a giant reflective mirror to redirect sunlight onto Earth after dark. This is a demonstration satellite that will carry a 60-foot mirror designed to briefly illuminate targeted areas on the ground for uses such as emergency response, construction, agriculture, and extending solar energy production. The long-term vision is a constellation of up to 50,000 mirror satellites providing, quote, sunlight on demand. Environmental groups fear that the artificial light could disrupt wildlife, ecosystems, and natural day-night cycles for both animals and humans, and the proposal has also drawn strong criticism from astronomers who warn that the mirrors could interfere with telescope observations and further brighten the night sky. No. Please, God, no.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
When will we learn not to dramatically upset the balance of nature? There was an influential conservationist of the early 20th century named Rachel Carson who had a quote that read, "Nature has introduced great variety into the landscape, but man has displayed a passion for simplifying it. Thus, he undoes the built-in checks and balances by which nature holds the species within bounds." I get that innovation will always push the limits of what we consider to be normal, but this just feels like a massive disruption of the physical world. Call me a Luddite, but disrupting something as fundamental as night and day feels like it would have massive consequences, both expected and unexpected. Let's just focus on the practical things like colonizing Mars and not launch a constellation of mirrors into space.
I saw people paying like $250,000 to go to space. Who the hell want to go to space?
But wait, don't you want to see, like, I don't know.
No.
Moving on to our second topic of the day, a small town in Newfoundland and Labrador in Canada is finally getting relief after enduring the stench of rotting fish for more than 20 years. The odor came from an abandoned fish sauce factory containing 110 tanks, each holding about 3,000 gallons of fermenting fish sauce left behind when the company shut down the factory. The decaying plant became a local nuisance as the smell regularly drifted over the town of about 300 residents, with the mayor describing it as, quote, the worst rotten fish smell you've ever smelled times 100.
Do you smell it? That smell. A kind of smelly smell. A smelly smell that smells smelly. Anchovies.
Cleanup crews have begun draining the tanks, mixing the waste with peat moss so it can be safely transported and buried in a specifically lined disposal site. Mayor Steve Ryan, who once worked at the factory, said residents spent decades lobbying for help and expressed frustration that the federal government never contributed to the product.
Sooner or later, the people in this country are going to realize the government does not give a fuck about them.
The cleanup will cost a total of approximately $1.2 million, funded primarily by the provincial government, while the town temporarily contributed nearly $200,000 through a loan. This is crazy that it took 20 years to address something that in the grand scheme of things really didn't cost that much. This is just my opinion, but I feel like governments everywhere spend lots of money on things that seemingly don't make that much of a difference, and this was something that was plaguing this town for 20 years, and at only a cost of $1.2 million, it just feels crazy that it didn't happen earlier.
It's not always about the money, Spider-Man. It's about the Mets, baby. Love the Mets. All right, baby, let's go. Get a home run, baby. Love the Mets. Let's go, Mets.
Especially considering that it was the result of a plant closing and not some natural, unavoidable occurrence. Did these people go nose blind eventually, or was it that bad that after 20 years, people still just constantly felt like they were smelling rotten fish?
It stinks. It stinks.
Yes, Mr. Sherman, everything stinks.
I assume the legal battle was to make the company pay for the cleanup, but holding this town hostage for 2 decades while they suffered seems truly dystopian. Thankfully, the cleanup is finally moving forward, and the residents can invite friends and family over without having to face the stigma of living in potentially the world's stinkiest location.
It's done. Yes, Mr. Frodo. It's over now.
Moving on to sports. We're still in kind of a dull period of major sports, so we're going to give you an alternative recommendation today. We have the World Alternative Games in Wales this weekend, which features events like wife carrying, worm charming, bathtub racing, and many more. if you're one of those people that likes to tell your friends and anyone who will listen that you would have made the NFL or the NBA if not for a freak ankle sprain when you were 14 years old, this might be your chance to rise to athletic greatness.
Back in '82, I used to be able to throw a pigskin a quarter mile.
For weather today, our random city is Karakol, Kyrgyzstan. It will be a high of 82 degrees and a low of 56. Our fun fact about Karakol is that the famous Dungan Mosque that was built in 1910 for Chinese Muslims who were living in the area was built without a single metal nail. Pretty cool. I know there are other traditional architecture sites that featured similar types of construction where everything was cut very specifically and put into place. I want to actually make a recommendation of a YouTube channel. If you've never heard of Grandpa Amu, he is a YouTube creator who essentially builds wooden footbridges and other interesting sort of structures and I would say even art pieces. And he uses sort of this traditional woodworking method where he's not nailing anything in, he's just cutting everything and it fits together perfectly. So check out Grandpa Amu and check out Karakol, Kyrgyzstan if you're interested in seeing that kind of construction firsthand. That's another episode of Average Joe News Co. Thanks for checking us out as always. Next week, there will not be any more episodes. I'm going to actually be on vacation, so I will be back the following week with a fresh round of new content. Thanks again for coming. Play the music.